Every single one of us has been there. That knot in your stomach, the racing pulse, the involuntary clenching of your jaw. It's that familiar, unwelcome sensation of anger, frustration, or simply being utterly bothered, usually by someone else. Maybe it was a colleague who took credit for your work, a driver who cut you off, a family member who made a thoughtless remark, or even a stranger whose mere presence grated on your nerves. These external events, these other people, often feel like direct assaults on our peace, hijacking our day and leaving us stewing in resentment. Our typical reactions are often a desperate attempt to regain control. We might lash out, engage in a heated argument, or silently fume, replaying the interaction endlessly in our minds. Sometimes we sulk, withdrawing into ourselves, allowing the negativity to fester. Other times we simply try to avoid the source of our irritation, hoping that distance will magically dissipate the feeling. Yet, time and again, these strategies fail. The anger might subside temporarily, but the underlying vulnerability remains, ready to be triggered by the next minor offense. We end up feeling exhausted, powerless, and perpetually at the mercy of others' actions and the unpredictable chaos of the world around us. This cycle is draining, unproductive, and frankly, deeply unsatisfying. It leaves us wondering, is there truly no escape from this constant emotional turbulence? Now imagine a different reality. What if you could genuinely choose not to be bothered? What if you possessed an internal shield, not of indifference but of profound understanding and resilience, allowing you to navigate life's inevitable irritations with unwavering calm? What if you could reclaim your inner peace, making it impervious to the whims and actions of anyone else ever again? This isn't a fantasy, nor is it about suppressing your emotions until they explode. This is the promise of Stoicism. Stoicism isn't some ancient, obscure philosophy gathering dust in forgotten texts. It's a remarkably practical framework for emotional resilience, a way of living that empowers you to master your inner world. At its heart lies a deceptively simple yet profoundly transformative concept, distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. Think about it. We spend an enormous amount of emotional energy fretting over things we can't change, other people's opinions, their decisions, global events, the weather. We mistakenly invest our emotional well-being in external events and the actions of others, things that are by their very nature beyond our direct influence. This external versus internal dilemma is where much of our suffering originates. We allow external factors to dictate our internal state, essentially handing over the reins of our happiness to forces outside ourselves. Stoicism offers a radical shift in perspective, a powerful invitation to reclaim that control. It promises to guide us in focusing our energy exclusively on what we can control: our own thoughts, our judgments, our reactions, and our values. By doing so, we begin to cultivate an inner fortress, a sanctuary of peace that no external event or difficult person can breach. This isn't a new idea. The principles of Stoicism were first articulated in ancient Greece around the 3rd century BCE by philosophers like Zeno of Citium, and later refined by figures like Seneca, Epictetus, and the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. These thinkers faced their own share of adversity, political intrigue, personal loss, and societal pressures. Their writings are not abstract academic exercises, but practical manuals for living a good life, for finding tranquility amidst chaos. They understood that while we cannot control the world, we can absolutely control how we respond to it. Why is this ancient philosophy so incredibly relevant today? In our hyper-connected, often confrontational modern world, stresses and interpersonal conflicts seem to multiply daily. We're bombarded with opinions, expectations, and demands, making it harder than ever to maintain our composure. Stoicism provides not just abstract ideas, but actionable tools, a roadmap to navigate these challenges with grace and strength, transforming annoyance into opportunity for growth. It sets the stage for a deeper exploration into how we can truly master our reactions and live a life unbothered. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The dichotomy of control, that fundamental Stoic principle, isn't merely an intellectual exercise, It's a profound call to action. It urges us to scrutinize every situation, every interaction, and consciously separate what falls within our sphere of influence from what inevitably lies outside it. When someone cuts you off in traffic, the act itself is outside your control. You cannot rewind time or alter their driving habits. What you can control, however, is your immediate response. Do you erupt in road rage, or do you take a deep breath, acknowledge the momentary inconvenience, and let it pass? This ability to focus solely on your responses is the bedrock of emotional mastery. Our reactions, far more than the external events themselves, are what truly define our emotional state. We often mistakenly believe that the bad thing caused our anger, when in reality it was our judgment about the bad thing that ignited the flame. This brings us to the immense power of judgment. Consider an annoying colleague. Is their behavior inherently bad or annoying? Or is it your interpretation, your subjective judgment of their actions, that labels it as such? Stoics understood that things are not good or bad in themselves, but our opinions about them make them so. This isn't to say that all actions are morally neutral, but rather that our emotional distress often stems from our personal narrative about an event, not the event itself. Cognitive reframing, therefore, becomes a powerful Stoic technique. When confronted with an irritating situation, instead of immediately labeling it negative, we can consciously challenge that thought pattern. Can this behavior be seen differently? Is there a less emotionally charged interpretation? Perhaps that colleague is struggling with their own pressures, or the driver who cut you off is rushing to an emergency. This reframing doesn't condone their actions, but it disarms your automatic negative emotional response. A fascinating and highly effective Stoic practice is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This involves mentally preparing for potential annoyances or difficulties before they occur. Before a challenging meeting, you might consider what difficult questions could arise, or how a particular person might react. Before visiting a family member known for critical remarks, you might mentally rehearse your calm, measured response. By anticipating these potential evils or annoyances, you lessen their shock value and reduce their emotional impact when they actually happen. It's like building an emotional vaccine. Complementing this is amor fati, the love of fate. This isn't a passive resignation, but an active embrace of everything that happens, even the unpleasant interactions, as an integral part of life's rich and complex tapestry. When you encounter someone who rubs you the wrong way, instead of resisting the experience, you accept it as part of the human condition, a moment that contributes to your growth and understanding. You don't just tolerate it, you learn to see it as necessary, even valuable for your development. To gain even broader perspective, the Stoics employed the view from above. Imagine hovering high above the earth, observing the vastness of the planet and the minuscule scale of human concerns. From this cosmic vantage point, our trivial conflicts, our petty annoyances, and the daily squabbles that inflame our tempers suddenly appear insignificant. This exercise helps to detach us from the immediate emotional whirlwind and reminds us of the larger scheme of things, fostering a sense of calm and proportion. Central to all these techniques is a deep understanding of human nature. Recognizing that others act according to their own understanding, their own beliefs, and their own often imperfect reasoning can be incredibly liberating. Most people are not intentionally trying to annoy you. They are simply navigating the world as best they know how, driven by their own internal logic, fears, and desires. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it provides a framework for empathy. Understanding another's motivations, even without condoning their actions, can disarm your anger and replace it with a more measured, compassionate response. This empathy itself becomes a powerful Stoic tool, allowing you to see beyond the immediate irritation to the underlying humanity. Ultimately, living by Stoic virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance naturally reduces conflict and the likelihood of being bothered. When you act with wisdom, you choose your battles carefully. When you act with courage, you face difficult situations without succumbing to fear or anger. When you act with justice, you treat others fairly, reducing friction. And when you act with temperance, you control your impulses and reactions. These virtues create an internal harmony that makes you less susceptible to external discord, paving the way for a life truly unbothered. To translate these powerful Stoic concepts into your daily existence, specific actionable exercises are crucial. Begin with daily journaling, a practice cherished by ancient Stoics themselves. This isn't just writing about your day, it's a deliberate self-reflection. When you feel bothered or angry, pause and write down the trigger, your immediate emotional response, and then analyze it through a Stoic lens. Was the event truly within your control? What judgment did you apply that fueled your anger? How could you have reframed the situation? This consistent tracking and analysis help you identify patterns, challenge irrational thoughts, and consciously apply Stoic principles in real time. Coupled with journaling, cultivate mindfulness and presence. So often, our negative reactions are automatic, a knee-jerk response to a perceived slight. By practicing mindfulness, by intentionally being present in the moment, you create a tiny but significant gap between the stimulus and your reaction. In that space, you gain the power to choose your response rather than simply reacting. When someone says something irritating, instead of immediately firing back or internalizing the annoyance, take a breath. Observe your physical sensations, acknowledge the thought without judgment, and then consciously decide how to proceed. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about observing them and preventing them from controlling you. Stoicism also empowers you to set healthy boundaries, not as a confrontational act, but as a protective measure for your inner peace. If a particular interaction consistently drains you or provokes anger, a Stoic approach isn't to endlessly endure it, but to wisely manage your exposure. This might mean limiting contact, having a calm conversation about expectations, or simply changing your own internal response to their behavior. You protect your tranquility not by trying to change others, which is outside your control, but by managing your interaction with them, which is firmly within it. A cornerstone of the Stoic mindset involves understanding the indifference. These are external events, possessions, health, reputation, or even others' opinions of you. They are not inherently good or bad. They are merely preferred or dispreferred. Your car breaking down is not bad in itself, it's an indifferent. Your emotional distress comes from your judgment that it shouldn't have broken down. When you recognize that most external circumstances and people's reactions fall into this category of indifference, their power to disturb your inner equilibrium diminishes dramatically. You learn to accept what is, rather than railing against what you wish were different. Crucially, letting go of expectations is a primary path to reducing frustration. We often enter interactions or situations with a rigid idea of how things should unfold or how people should behave. When reality inevitably deviates from these expectations, we feel bothered, disappointed, or angry. A Stoic understands that expectations about externals are often premeditated resentment. By approaching life with an open mind, accepting that others will act according to their nature and that events will unfold as they will, you detach your happiness from unpredictable external factors. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means acting with intention while holding the outcome lightly. The long-term benefits of consistently applying these Stoic practices are profound. You'll experience improved relationships, not because others change, but because your reactions to them transform. Reduced stress becomes a natural consequence of letting go of what you cannot control. And gradually a deep, unshakable inner tranquility begins to take root, making you less susceptible to the daily irritations that once plagued you. It's vital to challenge common misconceptions here. Stoicism is not about being emotionless. It's not about becoming a cold, unfeeling robot. Instead, it's about emotional mastery, about feeling emotions without being enslaved by them. It's about responding wisely and virtuously rather than impulsively. Anger, sadness, and joy are natural human experiences. The Stoic goal is not to eliminate them, but to prevent them from dictating your actions and robbing you of your peace. This journey is a continuous one. Stoicism is a practice, not a destination. You won't achieve a perfectly unbothered state overnight or even in a year. There will be days when you slip, when old habits resurface, and when external events genuinely test your resolve. But each time you return to the principles, each time you reflect, you strengthen your inner fortress. You become more resilient, more peaceful, and more aligned with your highest self. So, the invitation stands. Begin your own Stoic journey. Pick one practice, journaling, mindfulness, or intentionally letting go of an expectation, and commit to it. Observe the subtle shifts in your perspective, the gradual lessening of external annoyances. Reclaim your inner peace, not by changing the world around you, but by mastering the world within. A life unbothered is not a life without challenges, but a life where you choose your response every single time.